Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome back to yet again another free support Friday. So it looks like my audio is already off to a terrible start. Go ahead and see if we can't get that fixed here real quick. You guys should be able to hear me a little bit better now, I assume. You can go ahead and let me know down in chat. With that being said, welcome to a new time slot. We're going to try things out a little bit different. Good old analytics tells us that a lot of you are online right now at 11 a.m., which could only lead me to believe those on the East Coast as well as the central area watch this type of stuff during your lunch break. So, with that being said, you guys know the deal. I am Fusion Phil, or as some of you have may caught my Workflow Wednesday video. Actually, not Workflow Wednesday. It was a feature cam video yesterday. I am not feature cam Phil. However, if you are watching this after the fact, or you're watching it right now and want to see good old Fusion Phil learn feature cam, it's something we could set up on our end and see what we can do. So with that, I have a few topics that, of course, we can always kick this off and get it going. I see Mads Camper out there. Awesome. Great to have you go in chat. And with that, let's go ahead and see what we got. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change screens. At any time, if I screw anything up, guys, feel free to let me know in chat. I will do my best to accommodate. But the very first question I actually got recently was, how do I turn off all the notifications every time somebody saves something on my team or hub? And it's actually a pretty simple process. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open my data panel. I'm sitting inside of one of my projects. So let's go ahead and open up the web viewer. Now this is happening on another screen real quick. I'll drag this over here in a second. I just want to make sure nothing too crazy is going to pop up for you guys. All right. Looking good here. So it is going to be a moment where I'm not going to be able to show you. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to your initials here. And then inside there, you're going to have your settings. So let me populate that. I'm going to go ahead and go to my account. Actually, I apologize. You should not be going to my account. My brain just completely crapped the bed on this one. So let's go ahead and see here. I am going to go to admin. Admin is actually what you guys want. Let me bring this back down now. If you have the admin roles, and some of you out there are probably questioning like, hey, I never get email updates, but how you can fix that and turn that off is under admin. You can see down below, we actually have the ability to set our domain and access, as well as in the projects tab. And my brain is just not in this. If you guys having a bad week like me, go ahead and let me know. Again, we're going to go ahead and keep that closed so you guys don't see. But let's go back and look a different way. Why is my brain just not working the best? So let's go into one of my projects and see if it's in there. If not, maybe we just restart the whole stream over, right? Get this out of the way. Denmark, it's 5 p.m. Oh, wait a minute. Time is 5 p.m. in Denmark. Nice. All right. Why is my brain? It's me. It's got to be me. 100%. So, what I'm hoping to do, if I can find it here, that is not it. Where did they move it? They seem to have moved it. For those of you that are out there kind of wondering what I'm looking for, I'm looking for the email notifications of the. Now, I cannot realize now. I don't know where they put it. They may have recently. So for those of you probably getting a pretty good laugh out there, let's go ahead and take a look at another location. Give me a second here before I drag this over. That is not it. Let's go to one more location. I posted out probably 6 times earlier today with the Autodesk dumper post nonetheless, thinking that it was going to give me troubleshooting code. More than happy to show you the difference between. Why is my brain is not it? There you a button that allows you to turn off email notifications. I can't remember where it went. Man. Give it to old Fusion Phil to start this off with something that does not work. Obviously, they moved it. I could have sworn. You know what it might be? I know exactly what it is. Give me a sec here. I am going to jump to a completely different team because I have a feeling, because I am my admin on my team. Not true at all. Oh, there it is. All right. So, it's going to be tricky. So, I'm not going to actually be able to show this to you guys, but I will take a screenshot here and then I'll pull it up. But the issue on my end, and I'm going to go back and confirm this, I was sitting in the wrong area. Check one more place here real quick. And oh, it is down there at the bottom, but I can't show it to you guys. So I am going to do this a little bit different here. So I got a screenshot. Let's get that screenshot pulled up for all of you guys at home. Is basically you're going to go to your initials in the top right corner, and then you're going to click settings, and then you're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you should have a lovely screenshot that looks like this. Send email notifications. So what this does, every time somebody saves a file when you're working, obviously it is populating those different things for you and able to toggle on and toggle off those notifications. Now, I would suggest that you do allow the @ mentions to stay on, especially if you're somebody that likes to use some of the neater features inside of Fusion that I think a lot of people look. Yeah, I'm trying to get you guys back up over here. So we're off to a beautiful start. So again, by turning off those email notifications, as you saw in that screenshot, if you don't allow the ability to say @ in this case, I think I have Ty on my team. In this case, I don't. Ty over at Learn It. Actually, I think his is, and I'm just up to no good. I don't have anybody on this project, so that's why it's not allowing me to tag anybody. But you can actually tag and communicate through the comment section inside of Fusion when it comes to these different parts and different workflows that you guys are working. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and shift gears here a little bit. First, I think I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the manufacturer area, and let's go ahead and delete the setup. And then I am going to kick this off the right way, which if you guys didn't know, you all support this channel in a lot of way with like, subscribe, shares. You guys buy beers, you buy steaks now. So we have a steak option. With that, I am going to crack open this energy drink because I feel that I need it quite a bit. And I want to thank you guys for all the donations from last week. We have tallied up the sum of beers, and it is pretty astronomical. So if we ever get the chance to meet in person, guys, go ahead and let me know. I will happily buy you a beer if you've bought me a beer. Awesome. So, I do see quite a lot of chaos happening on my cell phone. Let me just make sure that nothing is too crazy. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So there's some good news that we might give you guys a sneak peek today. So, another customer came in. I don't know how many of you guys have this issue, but have you ever tried to side mill a profile like this? And when side milling a profile like this, having problems with your chain selection to get the toolpath to go down and around the proper way, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a very generic setup here. We're going to do this on a mill turn in particular. And with that, I am going to go for a pretty standard 2D contour. Now, if you have done this, you already know where this is going to end up. As you can see, we actually need to set tool orientation, so I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and get that tool orientation going. You want Z-axis up and down. And then the chain that I want to use is going to be these edges here. Now, for most of you, you may pick the lower edges or the upper edges. What I want to show you is, if you notice, this chain down here on the backside is actually doubling back on itself. So sometimes when you're trying to machine something like this, it will affect kind of everything you're doing. So let's go ahead and grab our tool here. As you can see, we are using a 3/16 tool, and when it gets down to the end of this chain, it's thinking that the start point of that curve and the end point of this curve, it's having a problem with actually following through with that profile, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys the tricks of the trade to be able to accomplish. So let's go ahead and jump back to the design side. Now, there's a lot of ways for people to achieve creating that curve, right? I can create a sketch. In this case, whoever drew this amazing part, put it all on center in the plane. And now I can use the project feature, and I can go ahead and project those edges that I want for this toolpath. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to project, obviously, the curve down here as well. And we're going to see if that remedies the problem, right? So now we have our projected edges of a sketch to create shoulder milling. Again, we go back to the manufacturer side of things. I'm going to unselect my original chain, and I'm going to reselect those projected edges. And whether or not we actually projected those edges properly, let's go ahead and grab them. And let's see what we could get. So again, we're still getting that dilemma where it's not getting down and around because even that projected sketch down onto itself has folded it flat. Todd, great to see you out there. How's it going? A lurker, first-time commenter. All right, very well. Todd, if you have anything in particular you want to see, go ahead and let us know in chat. It's under settings. Yeah, Isaac, you're a little late to the party, but we did figure that out. Currently, we're looking at a few other things. So again, the whole idea of how you're chaining your part is going to make the difference in this case. I am going to avoid that one segment. We're going to go ahead and leave the little tail off too, because this is how we start to troubleshoot things here at jitcadcam. I like to reverse engineer whatever it is you guys are trying to do and re-improve on that process if there's something we can do to make it easier. So as you can see, the projected edges is going to be a big flaw here because it's still doubling up that edge over it. So let's go back again to what you could say is the sketching board. I'm not going to say drawing. Drawing is a completely different workspace. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to remove that last sketch from my timeline. And this time I'm going to show you guys kind of a weird trick that I've learned works really, really well. We're going to split our part in half. And as you guys are going to see again, because somebody drew this thing on center, they're giving us the luxury of the plane. And now you can see we have our edges here that are not going to double up over itself. So this is where we can turn off half of our part. I am going to create a sketch here. And then with that, we're automatically projecting the edges of that sketch for me to pull, I believe. Sometimes things change in the software for the better. So we can go ahead and now combine these two back together. And as you're going to see now, we have one body and we have our sketch there with our edges to be able to select that profile, right? So again, we jump from design back to manufacture. And with that being said, our geometry this time is going to be that lovely sketch profile. As you can see, I'm highlighting it right now. And what's happening is it's pulling that entire projected edge all the way around the silhouette of that face. So pro tip here, I can hold Alt key and pick once, pick my line a second time. And as you guys can see, I can go ahead and create that profile. Now I am going the wrong direction and I see this a lot. So I can either pick the red arrow or I can check the reverse button. And now let's see what we get. So now as you're seeing, we're finally getting that tool into that corner. Again, we're going to adjust this a little bit more, but by splitting the body and projecting those edges, it's actually helped me out in order to create the geometry to create that profile. Yes, I know we could also lower that down, of course. We may want to go to a selected contour, right, down here at the bottom, minus whatever you're going to feel comfortable with. I'm going to go 20. And then from that, I am going to extend out my lead in and my lead out on this profile. And now you'll see we start to get down to that corner and we've started to lead away from the part, right? Again, another way to look at this. See quite a few chats starting to come in. I'm a longtime user trainer for Fusion, always looking for how other people do things to add to my tool belt. Awesome. I like to use the split line. That's a good one also, Todd. Elijah out there, pocket versus flat. People are telling me not to use flat because it plunges in the middle of the material. We're going to go ahead and take a look at that here. So there is a few other tricks here. I want to show you guys this. As you can see, simple enough the way I did this, I was able to limit it based on splitting the body and everything of that nature. But now Fusion does have some new tools here as well. So if My stock in this case, and this is going to be the key element, if your stock is basically the same size as your part, and I am cheating the system 100% here by hitting 0. If we made a 2D contour toolpath, again, we're going to do our tool orientation. And again, we'll flip that up just so we see it from the top side. In my geometry selection tools, there's a lot of different things you guys have the ability to use and pick, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say silhouette. Now that has created my profile of my part. And what I like to do, and this is a big thing to me, guys, I can't stress this enough. A lot of people go in when you're new and you click way too many buttons. We'll say a lot of you that are also experts go in and click way too many buttons, right? Let's see what we get for blue lines, and then let's make our adjustments from there. As you can see, we're doing the inside profiles here. Maybe I don't want to do that with this tool. This radius here might be smaller than the radius of this tool, so we can adjust it. The best thing about Fusion is the speed at which you can get blue lines on your part and troubleshoot it, right? So we can go back to our silhouette. We only want to do outer loops. And as you're going to see, we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And now we're only doing the outside profile of our part. Same rule applies. Fusion is very intelligent if we start to look at something like utilizing a stock contour. Again, this is auto projected from what we've done so far. And if we hit OK, it's going to crop down as much as it can. Now, keep in mind, it's still thinking that there's stock over here. Not the best of use cases in this case because of the taper and everything, but you can see by that boundary of stock, we can actually limit that tool path as well. If you wanted to sketch your own rectangle for limiting and say that is the stock is also another way to go about it. So Elijah wants to talk about flat versus pocket and when to use flat, telling me not to use flat. That's kind of shocking. Plunges in the middle of the material. So are you using, well, this is going to be tricky. So I'm assuming off the start, Elijah, you're using 2D pocket, of course, right? Let's go ahead and look at a couple of examples here. I'm going to draw up a part. Last week, I love torturing you guys with how terrible my sketches are. Let's go ahead and get an example here, right? 12. Let's just go 12 by 12. Let's make a open area here, technically. And why not get fancy with it, right? Let's do, oh man. We're going to do a slot, and we're going to do that based on center point, right? Weird areas we're going to machine in. And we're going to bring this all down. And what I'm going to do is we're going to repeat that extrude. Let's bring this one down a different height than the other. Oh, yes, we know, as always, guys, square corners are the devil when it comes to talking about Fusion. So let's go ahead and get a square corner in there. So the difference between the two, now this is where I would say everything starts to add up, right? So as we've already kind of talked about a little bit with the ability to use the stock containment box, right? The containment of saying there's material here, you need to remove it. If I do 2D pocket, and this is my pocket, right? Oh, let's create a setup first. Again, we have our XYZ, gotta fix my Z because I drew everything in the wrong view. Here we go. So if I was to go in and do something like 2D pocket and define my boundaries based on the floor, it automatically recognizes things like open areas, right? Now, keep in mind 2D pocket, and this is where you're going to start to have a good time, is you're going to need to set your depths based on what you're doing. I would also recommend the fact that this is a roughing strategy, so things like your tolerance can come into play, or minimum cutting radiuses if you're not trying to go into square corners, right? So let's go ahead and hit OK. And what I'm looking for is the strategy for comparison. So good old 1/2 inch fill over here. We're going to grab that 1/2 inch flat ML. And as you're going to see now, pocket starts off my part and it starts to work in, right? That's probably a critical thing if you're dealing with open pockets. Now, if you're working inside of an area, notice how my helical bore is starting way at the top and then going down, and it's basically chasing that profile outward. Now, if we were to look at its strategy like flat, so again, we're going to go flat. Now, by default, it will be looking for the model top, which is this very top area up here. So I am going to change this, and we are going to say model top, and let's just start, 10 thou below that. So what you're going to see now is this strategy is recognizing where it can and cannot go into the part, as well as the transition from the path. Now, a lot of people are saying, yes, it plunges down in the middle of your part, which there's a lot of things you can do to remedy that, right? So instead of doing our helical entry, again, now you look, our transitions are back here in the corner. Working with something like flat, we can, of course, go to linking, and then we can change or add in things like ramp. Again, we can put a helix back on there at any time. So as you're going to see is with that helix, we're now helicing in the exact same way as I'm doing a pocket, except I'm doing a lot less manual work here, right? So either strategy I think is wrong in this situation. I personally avoid using a roughing strategy for finishing, but each their own, right? So again, as you can see, Elijah, not a big difference. Appreciate the question. If you have any other questions or anybody new out there has any questions, feel free to throw them in chat and let me know. Give me a sec here. All right, we got a pretty good message from one of my good buddies that's building some software if you guys haven't seen. We may take a peek at it in this video, or I may have to do another live stream later. Any questions so far? There's Thomas. Thomas, how's it going? You ready to see some mill turn stuff, Thomas? So Elijah, as you're seeing here, I'm using the flat strategy. Again, getting a very similar outcome. However, I am getting a couple of things different. As you can see, I've added the helical in. The transitions are much more cleaner over here versus loading that tool up in the corner. I don't think one is necessarily right nor wrong. I just know when you start to look at the flat strategy, there's a lot more things that you can do with flat strategy, with how it's going to chase that profile, the pocket. If we kind of added a weirder shape here, lots of things you can do, right? Again, I still think either way, though, I always am a big fan of leaving material on the walls and zero on the floors, because I would like to come back after the fact, of course, and make my cleanup cuts around the outside. To me, this is me. Yeah. So, to me, this is my opinion. 3D toolpaths are the way to go because they are model aware, right? So at any time, if my design changed, let's go ahead and add a little bit of a crazier shape here, right? So let's say we now have kind of like a doubled up rectangle area, right? And let's say this is a completely different height, and that's probably going to be the deepest one of any of them. Not going to fillet the corners, guys, but if I went back to manufacture right now, as you can see, as soon as I regenerate everything, 2D is still constrained to what it can find. Now, there has been improvements, again, to chaining. So you may actually do your pocket selection based on pocket recognition, right? So again, this is something really neat that Fusion has done, that you can actually set your information based on your pockets. So you actually have a maximum pocket depth. We would have to increase this to like 0.5, and then maximum corner radius, minimum corner radius. And we're going to go ahead and increase that. And let's see what we get. As you can see, we're going to hit OK and see if we get anything recognized. And we did not, which means Fusion Fill over here is probably putting in the wrong parameters overall. Go ahead and take a look here. We don't actually need to select the model. We have the setup model. Decrease our minimum. Let's just increase. There we go. Yep, we need to increase the maximum. Now, keep in mind what we're seeing here is it's not recognizing the open pocket either, which is kind of interesting when you think about it. Let's go even deeper. Yep. So as you can see, we're not able to actually pocket recognize automatically certain features as well. Let's go ahead and delete that toolpath. I usually pick my toolpaths based on laziness, as you guys have known. It's either laziness or proficiency, right? My flat toolpath in itself now has automatically recognized that there is now new boundaries to work within. And because they are closed boundaries, it's even recognizing we need to helix in, right? So again, if I was to now go in and let's just duplicate and change one. Let's say we want to do this based on the profile. What you're going to notice is inside of these areas, we're only getting a single path because it is now, which is really strange. So it is, let's see what it says. So they actually haven't even updated this yet, and I could be possibly showing you guys that we shouldn't be doing, but we'll go back to parallel because it will give you an example of chasing things in a single direction with a boundary around the outside as well. So again, in my opinion, Elijah, I think 9 times out of 10, I like the idea of utilizing flat over pocket. Now, I would recommend if you guys are doing stuff like this, make sure you're not using a perfectly flat end mill. You always want something with a little bit of a corner radius on it so that when you're going down in that material, if you've ever seen the swirl marks in the part, that tends to hide those a lot better. So I'm going to pivot now, Thomas. We're going to go ahead and talk about a little bit of main spindle, sub spindle fun on the worst machine. No, I'm kidding. It's not the worst machine. It's a great machine, but a pain in the ass, in my opinion, because of all the technical difficulties, right? So I could say it's a pain in the ass because I'm having to deal with the post processor on it. But as you guys can see here, we already got our mill parts started. I'm going to go ahead and remove those first 2 toolpaths we had because what we're looking at here is let's just get some good old-fashioned turning toolpaths on. We're going to update our stock here in a minute as well. As you can see here, we're going to go ahead and face off our part. Let's give this a little bit better material. Let's go up by 0.5 like it originally was intended. And we're going to go ahead and say it's 2.7 long. Of course, offsetting from the front for that first cut. We all know that saw doesn't cut straight, right? Here we go. And then let's hit this with a OD rough without axial and radial grooving, of course. And then we can do our finish. There we go. As you can see, I've basically added my toolpaths to my part. I'm going to go ahead and turn on stock, maybe. Play in process stock. Oh, that's right. Hey, guys out there, if you didn't catch my video on Wednesday, I show you guys how to increase performance by turning off options that are really nice to have when showing things. So, as you guys can see, we made our slug and everything, right? You're probably going to add a lot more stuff to this, but the idea is still the same, right? We did everything on the main. Let's go ahead and do our sub spindle grab now. So we're going to go in and we're going to grab. Now, I would like to grab, let's say 2 inches into my part. That's a little overkill. Let's go back to like 1.5. Again, allowing us to put that fillet and everything and blend it nicely on the other spindle. Now, we've grabbed our part. This is where we need to decide. Are we going to do a bar pull or are we just going to take the slug? We haven't parted anything off, right? Maybe we're just moving the slug. I'm going to do a bar pull because I feel that even though I have videos on this, Thomas, you and a lot of people have all missed the fact that there's several different things here. One is you can compensate the tool path, right? What that does is it will shift the G code automatically based on your pull distance, right? So if I was to come in and I was going to compensate everything, I want to do a pull distance of 3 inches. What is going to happen now is any tool path I put after this, for example, let's go ahead and hit this with a part off.